There's a flag.
Way out there. Oh, we have to do that every time? Is that?
You don't have to.
Oh, okay, I'm just asking. I'll do it.
Oh, yeah,
We don't have a flag.
It's not, every commission does it differently. City council meetings and parks do it, most other commissions don't.
Oh.
Want to skip it?
Next time we'll organize a flag to be used at a council.
There we go, that sounds good. Okay, so we will move on to our roll call.
We're doing our patriotic duty.
I'm telling
I
somebody.
mean, we are in a government building.
I'm going to tell somebody when we say go.
We've already pledged our allegiance by being here.
That's right.
Got that?
Yes.
In
We're
our
conforming.
application.
And some of us was here last night, right? Yeah, you were here. You were last.
Aisha Wright, Abdullah,
Present.
Kim Easton,
Present.
Thomas Modet,
Here.
John Hauser,
Here.
Pastor Moses Gonzalez, Joe Lershbeck,
Who's Joe?
Joe Lershbeck, yeah, thank you. John Marshall Lee, Susan Martin, here, Steve McKenzie, Dae McKnight, Kelly Nim, here, Faith Sweeney,
Here.
Reverend Terry Williams, present.
Thank you. We do have a quorum here, so we can conduct business. And first on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from February 28th, March 10th, and March 15th.
Clarifying point on that.
But we have a clarifying point for you. Go ahead.
I think everyone only has the meeting minutes from the first meeting.
Right.
The organization. So you might recall that on Saturday, we talked about this, and the new compromise is that Terry, the secretary, is just going to take the very basic notes that the clerk needs within 48 hours, including what time we started, who's here, what motions and votes we're taking, and when we adjourn, and that's it. But all of the other stuff that goes into the longer minutes and the commentary about what we talk about will be done by a stenographer. They're going to use the video that's taken and type those up and send it to the clerk. So they have not done that yet for the 5:45 meeting, that quickie meeting that happened that day before the public hearing, or Saturday's meeting yet. So I'm going to make a motion to table all of the minutes with the exception of the first one,
February 28th.
which was February 10th. So I'll make a motion to table the others.
Second. All those.
All those in favor, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the motion is passed. We will table March 10th and March
I just have a question.
15th.
When will they be available? 'Cause
So she
we have
just got them the
timeline.
video, so I don't know. Right, we're at risk of,
We're there already for March 10th. We've got
I
7
don't know
days.
if we didn't post anything though. They might have posted what we
Okay.
have so far, which is what we did even for the organizational.
Okay.
And I explained to Francis that we'll just, when we vote on the actual minutes, we'll swap them out.
Okay.
So I'm gonna make a motion
That
that
sounds good.
we adopt the minutes that we got in our emails from the stenographer for February 28th. Now, just so you understand what happens, they post drafts first, then they're gonna send them out to everybody. We'll review them. If anyone has any amendments at these meetings, we make the amendments, and then we can adopt them. So they're gonna swap them out for what we approved tonight. So I'm gonna make that motion.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is passed.
So we just adopted 28th.
Right.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion on the minutes for February 28th, 2025? Oh, we did?
You were,
I thought-
that comes before.
Yeah, I would like to go back because there were some errors in that one.
Oh, that's, okay, so let's, well, we can.
Or are we counting oh no, I'm sorry, never mind. Excuse me. We're talking about the stenographer notes. Never mind. I'm good, sorry about that. Okay, so that passed.
So as it stands, the February 28th meeting.
Yes,
Thank
the
you.
stenographer, yes. Okay, thank you.
So those minutes are done.
The 28th is done because the stenographer took those notes, so we're using the stenographer notes for that.
Okay.
The draft that was posted was something in between time, but we are swapping out those notes for the stenographer notes.
On those minutes, they spoke my name wrong.
On the stenographer,
Since those, that's a
It's okay.
But
moving forward,
Scrivener's error, we'll make sure we.
okay.
let her know, that's all I'm saying, just
Yeah.
let her know.
Yeah.
She didn't know.
I think Taisha's name is spelled wrong too.
It usually is.
Yeah, both, because we have like the same.
Okay, so check names.
I never spelled Thomas wrong.
Excuse me. Mr.
Without the
Goddard.
H.
Get over yourself, Mr.
Attorney
Goddard.
Times, that works.
Attorney Thomas, yeah.
Mark, your name was never misspelled.
Because he's in the spell check.
No, actually,
Probably correct.
no, because a lot of people actually call him Mark Anastasia. They don't. That's the common mistake for Mark Anastasia.
I had a
Okay,
boss up
next.
in Boston who called me Mark Anastasy. No matter how many times I corrected, he signed the paycheck.
Next item on the agenda is discussion of ground rules and norms for the committee meetings and public hearings. So, in our, for example, the meeting that happened this past Saturday, we need to really raise our hands and state our name, or the secretary or any of the chairs need to state our name so that the stenographer can hear it, the camera can hear it, but also just so that we can have a more clear meeting, because there were a lot of people talking and not raising their hand and not really saying their name or stating their name, so we really need to make sure that happens. Also, when we have our public hearing meetings, this is the time for our commission to listen. We are going to hold our comments to after, because we want to make sure that we hear everybody who is speaking. And that also goes for guests as well. We if a guest needs to speak, we do have notes over there for them to make a note and share it with us. But in order to be able to hear the people that we have invited, we really need to give them an opportunity to speak. And if other people have comments to make, they can record it over there. They can send it to us in an email. We do have a charter revision email address that hopefully will go out soon to people that we can also mention for people to use. That is a place for us to collect comments in regards to the charter. Let's see. And we've already discussed the minutes. And any discussion for the commissioners right now? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Sue Brantley Martin. I just had, actually, I think 2 suggestions, but when we have guests, is it possible to set us up in a U so they're in front of us? And that way they're talking to everyone. Because I have they're back to me in the
Right.
I just couldn't hear anything. And the other thing is, if you could, when somebody raises their hand, just acknowledge them and jot their name down so they know they're in the queue to be listened to, that would be very helpful too.
Yeah. Actually, we'll need a little help with that, so.
I think between the two of us.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You were just behind, so.
I sure was.
Yeah.
But it gave you a good perspective,
Yes.
that we do have a little hindrance, so just wanted to mention. Thank you.
No, thank you, that's a good point. Any other comments? Okay.
I'm just gonna share the email address, but I just wanna make sure I got it right. Is it charterrevision@bridgeportct.gov?
Hold on, let me go
I'm trying to
this way.
find it.
It was in my presentation.
Yes, okay, yes it is. So if anyone wants to email public commentary of any kind or give feedback outside of the public hearings, they can email charterrevision@Bridgeport, spelled out, And there's a number of folks, especially in the city clerk's office, that have access to that email. They will check it periodically and they will figure out a mechanism for getting it around to everybody.
Can you share it one more time?
Sure, charter revision at bridgeportct.gov.
Madam Chair, through the chair, Commissioner Gordak.
Yes.
That's going to be advertised to the public also too?
Yep.
And by what means?
Well, I think at the very least, when we amend the charter revision page on the city clerk's page tomorrow, we will have the first videos of the meetings posted with a YouTube link. So that's a step in the right direction, and we can post this as well. That's at least one way. How we get it out from there, I don't know. Certainly we should announce it at our meetings, at our public hearings.
Could it also be on the public notice, like the notices that go out?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I think the city council is going to do it through their rep page. They have this little program they're using to get information out on different topics, and we're going to share it there, so.
The outreach, in my opinion, is extremely important to all of us.
Okay. Yes. Aisha. Aisha.
Yeah, oh, you're right, I'm just stating my name, I gotta get used to stating my name before I speak, so I'm doing it now. Aisha Abdullah. Charter revision at Bridgeport, spelled out Bridgeport?
Yep, ct.gov.
Any other questions, comments, or suggestions regarding our meeting? Councilman Newton.
Yeah, I have a suggestion. I apologize. The city council comes to these meetings, and I was told by Ivy that we're not supposed to be asking questions.
Yes.
Y'all are going to meet with us.
Yes.
So I would suggest that when the council comes in here, you make that point known, because you all are going to meet with us at some point where we can talk to the commission. That's what I was told. So I'm just saying, and if they get loud, because we were kind of noisy, you know, people talking in the back, that y'all can ask them to leave. Because, and I'm serious, because it was very hard to hear at Saturday's meeting. So, if that's going to be the policy of the board, that the council members are invited, but they're not, you know, we shouldn't let them know we want to meet. This is for the public to meet with us first. Tom, am I correct?
I make a motion that we tell all the council members gathered right here, right now, that they can't speak at the meeting.
We should also get a microphone. We can get a
We were kind
microphone.
of loud, and, you know, we were asking questions.
The real motion we should make is for Sue Martin to be the sergeant at arms.
No, but I'm just, is it, you know, Tom, I don't know, because I wasn't here when they did the last charter, so I don't know if the council was allowed to be a part of. Okay, so I would just.
Through the chair, I think the discussion the other day was that you'll have the opportunity to speak to us, at least three opportunities to speak to the commission as a whole.
Right, as a whole.
So, yeah.
So I think you should make that known to the council members, because I know some will come from time to time.
If we have a bigger audience, I think we would set some ground rules,
Okay.
especially for people that are not on the commission. That, and, you know, because we do want to hear people that bring testimony and that hear their.
Only reason I brought that up, because at our council meeting, we're allowed, some council members will sign up to speak, and I don't want some council members to tell you that I'm a citizen first, and I should be allowed to speak as we have on the city council. Am I correct? So, I'm going to get around that. Because there's one council person that will stand up and say, hold it, I'm a citizen, I have the right to speak. So I don't know how you handle
We
that.
appreciate your input, and definitely we will consider it when we move forward. Thank you. Yes, Mark.
just so, and I think everyone knows this, but unless it's a noticed public hearing, the public does not have a right to speak. You obviously have a right to invite staff or select persons to provide you with information and testimony, as you did. There's no prohibition against you taking a vote to allow the public to comment, but I'm not sure that's your call. But the purpose of these meetings is to do the grunt work.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you'll have an appropriate number of public hearings as you did initially, and you'll determine, you have to have at least 2, and you'll determine how many more you want, when you want them, on what subject. But you can't turn this into a debate society, or you're never going to get the work done.
No, we have a lot
You have
of
a
work
very
ahead of
short
us.
time.
Yes. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and that being the first kind of meeting, that I think we have talked about changing the format where it's really this group right here that needs to be the speakers, the talkers, the question, and ask the questions. And we will have time for public hearing.
You may get pushback from some people because they don't recognize the distinction between city staff, who basically work for you, and the general public. City staff, I guess self-included, people from the departments, on an invite basis, are here at your pleasure. You don't have to recognize them. You certainly can, absent it being a noticed public hearing, because they're here as your staff.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Oh,
You just had a commissioner.
we recognize the McKnight. Thank you. I need nameplates.
It's not a bad idea.
Now, we got to get through.
Thank you, Councilman.
Okay.
Hello, my name is.
Right, name tags. Okay, any other questions or comments from the commission members? Okay, yes.
Aisha Ayala speaking. I just wanted to say, and I said this to the chair when I first came here, is that I think it needs to, well, we're doing it now, but really needs to be made clear exactly what our position is, who we are, what we're doing. I know we're revising the charter, but whatever goes along with that, because I was not clear on that. And I want to be clear so I can follow, protocol. And I think everyone does. Because I was under the impression that I couldn't talk to another person outside of this meeting.
As long as.
You told me that. I didn't know that.
As long as there's no quorum, we can speak amongst each other, as long as we don't have more than what is said.
Yeah, but I didn't know that.
Together.
I didn't know that.
Are there other rules that we need to?
Yeah, that's what I'm just asking. Is there any other?
Yes.
Well, through the chair, those are FOI rules, and I can make sure you all get an FOI presentation to kind of give you the basics.
That would be great.
FOI 101
Yes.
Yes.
on how to run a
Thank you.
meeting and what,
Okay, yes.
I'll do that, I'll get that out.
And Madam Chair, just one thing, if you don't mind. Susan Martin, the second thing that I wanted to mention, of course I forgot, was when someone's making reference to the charter, could they first give the page number? Because they'll start with the chapter, and then the section, and then the whatever, and by that time, I don't even have a chapter up.
So page number, chapter, section.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
Whatever it is, but
That
just
makes
start with the
sense.
page number to get me there.
Yep.
Thank you.
And everybody has the updated version of the book also?
The one that was just passed out of the
The one that was passed out Saturday. Is that-
I'm talking about.
okay. So. Is there any other comments or discussion before we move on to the next item? Okay. The next item is consideration for debriefing and possible action on the following chapters of the City of Bridgeport Charter. Chapter 1, General Provisions. Chapter 2, Officers and Elections. Chapter 4, City Organization and Structure. Chapter 7, Law. Chapter 9, Budget and Fiscal Control. So John and I were thinking about how we're listening to people. We had one public hearing, and then we had many people speak on Saturday. and provided us with a lot of information. So I think we need to take that information and start looking at the document and making the recommendation or putting the changes in there that they have suggested. Not vote on the document, but have the changes in there so that we can see what they look like, and also put in any of our own recommendations into the document. So any thoughts on that?
I mean, we can, this is not gonna be easy.
No.
Because this thing is gonna be this is line edits here with 13 people, so this is like the most impossible task. But what we can do is, I think there's some conceptual matters that we didn't really have a whole lot of debate in. I'd like to make sure, from my perspective, that people are on the same page about certain stuff. I think there was some unanimity the other day on certain topics, or some hot topics that people didn't want to bring up with the people in the room. So maybe we can touch on a few of those, and then the line item changes we can kind of make on the side and present them. At some point, I think we'll be there where everyone will have to go through and literally read the line item changes, but the topic about city sheriffs, the issue about is everyone in favor of creating a deputy, assistant, and town clerk roles and separating the chapters, and what do we think about the concept of, in a future date, just phasing out the elected city clerk and town clerk and making them civil service full-time positions? I think we need to agree on that stuff, and then we can get language that mirrors that kind of consensus.
Through the chair, we discussed general provisions, chapter 1. Is that just a matter of cleanup of the language itself?
So on that one, I'm gonna address that with the city attorneys after this, because another outside counsel dealt with this issue back in 2012, and I was going to request that we ask him to just take his prior work and update it. It's basically definitions that he's worked with. It's basically a definition section. It's very legal in nature, and so I think we can skip that for today and ask that lawyer to give us a new version of those definitions, and they're pretty applicable across municipalities.
Who is the person that you mentioned?
This attorney called Steve Mednick, who did our 2012 charter. So if you look at the amendments that we handed out at the organizational meeting, you'll see that chapter 1 was very much like, definitions and just high-level stuff before you got to the meat of the charter.
So we'll table discussion regarding that chapter 1. Is that how you want to move it?
Oh, yeah, I think we should skip 1 for now. We didn't really touch it, and I just threw it in there with you all at the first meeting in case we had extra time.
Make a motion.
Can I just make a recommendation through the chair? We should probably provide red line versions of the chapters that we've gone through with the changes that have been recommended as part of the minutes for the subsequent meeting, right? So for today, it would have been helpful if you all had markups of the charter, including the things that were discussed at the last meeting, or perhaps we do that today for the ones that, and we're going to skip 1 obviously, but as we move forward, tell us the things that you're accepting or the things that you want or whatever, and then we can keep a rolling copy of what we've done, and then we'll just make it part of the record.
I don't know about anybody else, but I marked down like the line item changes we went through. I just don't know if everyone agrees. You know what I mean? So it's not worth putting in the effort to try to make the changes, and then people are like, oh, I'm not with that,
How do we track it?
So the minutes I provided has that in there.
Okay,
That's what I
you
was
said,
saying.
okay.
I thought that's what we were
Okay,
doing.
all right,
We were
good.
gonna come back and we were gonna have those suggestions. I didn't put the actual language, but I did put the area that we were focusing on.
Okay.
So if it was chapter 2, I did chapter 2, section 2E.
Okay.
And there was those changes, but in my book I am, and taking the notes on that as well.
Okay.
But, we can make a copy of that and give that to everyone? I don't know.
I have a,
She got a hand.
Kelly Mims.
I have a question.
Sorry.
So, I don't know that there's much debate about some of the language, like moving from a Tuesday to a Wednesday, or switching sections around that we talked about last time. But I think the things that we need to talk about are the sheriffs, the registrar of voters moving to 4 years instead of 2. Because those, I don't know about the assistant deputy, I don't know if we have that power
Yeah.
to make someone a deputy or whatever.
Well, so what I'm thinking is, based on that comment, I think that's right. If we could just agree in concept on some stuff, we have some notes
Yep.
on it. I certainly, like, even down to the commas that Mark was
Yeah.
changing the other day, I wrote all that down in my book to track all of
Makes a
it. So we
difference.
probably are gonna, I think we're capturing everything. And then, like, for Taisha's section on the city attorney, she gave us a red line version, which we can just, basically just adopt. And I think we're gonna, hopefully with other sections, have that going in. I think the other day was a little clunky because the nature of some of the topics we were bringing up, and some of the people that are coming before us didn't have an exact proposal written down, but that's not always gonna be the case. But I just think, again, to your point, Kelly, I think we just need to agree on some of the stuff.
Mark Anastasia through the chair.
Yes.
I agree with everything you said. The only question is, at the end of the day, you probably have 98% of it, or maybe 100%. Others, including myself, might have 75 or 50%. Who's going to be responsible for producing a document that gets disseminated for people to then consider after we have a substantive, or you have a substantive discussion about what changes you want to make? Who's going to put those in a red line version, prepare a document to actually be presented, you know? Because there's no staff person really to do that I'm aware of.
I mean,
Well, I had an idea.
I'm actually happy to do it.
Oh,
I hate to say that,
Okay, back to you.
let her do it.
but I kind of think I want to do. I don't know, I'll attempt
You
to.
want our office to do it? That's
Yeah, I
great.
kind of want us to do it.
I was actually gonna suggest, I mean, I actually agree with that. I mean, I'm certainly gonna take whatever you produce and reread my book and make sure we got it right. But if we compare notes and then other people are taking, and then it'll come to the commission and everyone's got a responsibility here before we vote to read all the lines. So you'll know and we'll agree on it, we won't take any final votes till it's done.
Just to be clear, what we're doing as CAO and city attorney is not substantively imposing anything. It's preparing the document for your review. And you certainly can disagree with it when it comes back and say, we didn't agree on that. But I don't want there to be any perception out there that staff is trying to drive the substance, because we're not.
Okay.
You're just putting
I mean,
in
I
what we
can
discussed.
send you what I did for the
Okay.
minutes, and you'll see the section.
Perfect.
And then if you need the language, I have the language as well.
Okay, and I tried to keep up, so I think
Oh,
I have
okay.
a lot of it.
Okay.
Yeah, but I definitely want your notes.
I'll
Through
email
the
it.
chair, if we're gonna
I'll get you.
follow that way, I guess the first thing I'd like to bring to the floor is the question on the registrar of voters and whether or not we agree that a 4-year term is appropriate. Bring that for discussion.
I agree.
Is that, you want to
Yes.
follow that?
Let's do that.
Commissioners?
So do we want to talk, because the first group that came to talk to us was the officers and elections, do you want to just go through all of those first?
Yes.
Talk about what they brought up and any other comments you have or suggestions? Does everybody have the minutes that Terry took? She did take great minutes for that.
Did you send them to?
It was in an email. Oh, wait, maybe they don't have it.
We don't.
You sent it
We
to
didn't
us.
get, I don't remember seeing.
That's what I'm asking.
Well,
I can send it right now.
It was, I thought it was on a shared document.
Wait, yeah,
It was a shared document.
Oh, it is.
When I make the changes, everyone could see the changes.
Let me just
This is it right here, correct?
See, that's what I'm saying, red line.
Yeah, I can see that from here.
Yeah.
No, not
Everybody's
everybody.
Okay, so
Yours are probably red lines.
No, this is from Francis. This is not.
I thought it was sent by Lynette.
Yeah.
You have it, John? The one that I had with the,
I have.
Yeah.
No, see,
So
We can just
commissioners,
run through it if everybody.
Yeah, let's just,
Can
we
we just run
can do
through
a
it?
red line later, but just the concept of 2 or 4 years, we can write it.
Okay, perfect.
So, we just brought up the issue of registrar voters, and the possibility of changing it to a 4-year term. And I think we all heard the reasonings through both the Democratic and Republican registrars. So, can we just visit that issue?
Yes.
Is it unanimous that to do that? Or is there any, something against changing that? No discussion?
For the registrar of voters,
For the
or do we
registrars.
agree with moving from a 2-year term to a 4-year term?
This
Is
is
there
part of-
any-
through the chair, I apologize. Just to be clear, weighing in now is not a final vote.
This is not a
to
vote,
adopt
but
any-
are there any
But
discussion?
the department heads asked for it, they identified that the major cities in the state have a 4-year term. Unless you feel strongly against it, or if you do, now's the time to speak.
And I would like to hear your rationale as well, because I feel like having a rationale for whatever we're agreeing to is important to share.
Now, I just wanted to ask a question in reference to what Mark was saying, that was important. So, according to what I understand, even when we vote again, it still has to be voted on by the city council
Yep.
before the change.
Yes.
Okay,
And then it makes it to the city council, it goes to the voters.
okay.
Yes.
Aisha Abdullah, again, I'm sorry. So if the city council, when they receive the charter back, they vote line by line?
Wow.
Or do they vote for the whole
That's a
charter?
really interesting question.
Yeah, see, that's what I need to know.
So the first step is we vote on a document.
Right.
And it goes to them, and then
Right.
they just make recommendations. They just comment on it and send it back. They can propose changes, amendments, they can say, I hate this, I love this, they can do whatever they want.
Right.
And they send it back. We then have a second bite of the apple to consider their comments, and then we vote on a final. They then have the option of saying yes to the whole thing in total,
Right.
no to the whole thing in total, or
But
by concept, they can pick and choose. That doesn't necessarily mean word for word, like take out the comma here, or, I want a the here instead of an a. At least that's what we've been advised. But they can vote on the concepts and pick and choose what they approve or disapprove to go to the voters. And then goes to the Secretary of State, it gets placed on the November ballot, and the people.
Okay, so the mayor doesn't weigh in on this at all?
No, we're created by the council. But my question, follow up on that. When we send it for a final vote to the council, can we make that recommendation that, say they vote on legislative branch, or they vote on an ethics thing, or they vote on the civil service separately, instead of, I believe what happened in 2012 is the entire charter was thrown out after all that work. And I would hate to see that happen with all the work that we're doing. So how can we kind of ensure that our work is not in vain ultimately?
A point of clarification, if I could, through the chair. It was thrown, it never made its way past the council?
You never made it past the council, correct?
No, it made it to the voters.
It did.
And then
it was voted.
And they turned, and you're right, what happened in 2012, strategically, this is really a strategic thing, is they said, I think, I wasn't here at the time, but I understand from talking to many people that were involved in that process, and Mark was here, they wanted to push, the mayor wanted to take some seats on the board, make them mayoral appointees. That was very unpopular. So no matter how great all the other changes were, amendments to civil service, new definitions, cleanup of language, all the other good things they did, the whole thing went down because there was one ballot question certified. Now, the problem on the other side, and we can get to this later when we get closer to this whole issue, is it's already difficult enough for the voters to understand what we're doing, and we're about to make 1,000 changes to this thing. And so how many questions really do you want? Unless you feel like there's just one or two issues that really, really, really need to be separated, which they can totally do.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And if there's something that we want to push, that we think is really important, and the council wants to push that they think is really important, they may want to lump it in with everything else, saying, well, you got to take all of it or none of it.
So we have crapshoot, technically.
Well, we have to be reasonable.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Back to your discussion.
Oh, thank you.
So four-year term, any?
Go ahead. No, you go.
Just to follow up slightly on what Tom was saying, to be very clear, 7191D makes it clear that the council has the choice at the end, after they've commented on a draft and you've resent them the final report. It says not later than 15 days after receiving the final report, the appointing authority, that's the city council, by a majority vote of its entire membership, that's 11, shall either approve the proposed charter, charter amendments, or home rule ordinance amendments, or reject the same or separate provisions thereof. So they can pick and choose and package or not package and say, we love the 8 things you did and 7 of them are no go. So they have the ultimate say on what's going to appear in front of them.
Thank you.
Can I just make a suggestion?
Sure.
As a council person,
Yes, Councilman Newton.
I
You got 1 second.
I'm just going to try to suggest something to you. This is a political document. What you put in it, a lot of council people, that's why I thought the first people you would meet with to give you some direction would have been the city council. Then you would know where 90% of them are at. And then you would understand. But you got to do it the way you have to do it. But as the charter says, the council looks at what you do. But you don't know what input they want to put in. We can't put no input in it. We can't put no input in it.
No, you can.
You can.
No, you can. You can. You also can at the beginning, in your resolution creating the charter, you can give specific direction.
In 2012, it was
Right.
very specific.
Was it?
Yes.
And I suspect you can still send more input to the commission. It doesn't say when you have to give that input. It says you'll give direction. So we can check with Attorney Mednick if we want, I assume, and see if he agrees that there could be more specificity where the council could say, would like you to at least take a look at issues.
It would be helpful if the council also drafted something for us, like
What-
what are your wishes? Maria Pereira had a whole, many pages. So but you know what? It's easy to read and we can talk about it. So I think that's what, if you want to have your vision presented to us, it's important that it is written, that we can refer to it.
I thought that would take place when y'all met with the council.
But
That's what I thought.
I think there's a benefit to the committee going through the process without the influence of the council,
I agree.
and then coming to their own conclusions and recommending them to the council, as opposed to following direction of the council. Because while the council approves it, it is the people's charter, right? And so I wouldn't want council steering the direction of it. Ultimately, you all make the decision of how the question gets put out there, but I think the commission should be able to do their thing independently initially.
So that's what okay.
But we did also have a public hearing in the beginning. So that was one of the opportunities. We're going to have several more, and we would like anything that you want to write to us would be helpful for us to refer to in the future.
Those things, but I just thought that we were going to meet with you all to do that.
I think it's a time sensitive
I know we could do it
issue.
sooner,
Yeah.
but I thought that one of these dates that y'all were putting together was going to be for the city council to come in, I think, and discuss with you on some ideas.
We do want to invite city officials in, so we're not, you know, this is our what, third day?
Well,
Third meeting?
Just a point of clarification, just so you know, I'm sorry. No, I just want to make a point of clarification, because I read this ridiculous article, and it really was not a true narrative of what happened. They made it look like city, and I'm just saying this for the sake of truth and truth only. They made it look like other city council members were not interested in what we were doing. But the reason why Maria was the only one there is because everybody else went to a conference.
Yeah, we know that.
Out of state.
Yeah.
So just in case people didn't know, because I saw some negative writings
I saw
about
it. I
it,
saw
and
it.
it didn't make sense, and it wasn't
Yes.
true.
Well, that is true.
narrative.
A written document can be sent to anybody, anytime.
Right.
Right.
Just to be clear, under 190B, 7190B,
Page.
no,
No,
this
this
is
is
the
state statute.
state statute. It says that the council can specify areas they want you to look into. You also have freedom to look into beyond that. So the reason why I say that is a referral of the council as a body by resolution. You also can have a session where you invite city officials to come in and talk to you, council people. Now, in that capacity though, they're talking as individuals.
Right.
They may get 20 different opinions on something. It's not the will of the body. You'll get some people who come in, as Maria has already done. You may get others. But the council as a body can also refer items. So anyway.
We are also in our, just to let you know, our last item on our agenda is to talk about meeting dates and plan when to invite city officials.
That's good.
So we do have that in mind,
No, that's good, that's good, that's
but we
good.
need to gel as a group here.
Keep up the good work, okay? And I
Thank you.
appreciate you all dedicating your time, because it's a lot of work. And you don't get paid for it,
No?
just like the council.
He had to throw
Let me remind you, the council gets a $15,000
I'll take some of your stipend.
Strike that from the
I'll take
record.
I think it is possible for us to get back onto that one issue about a possible 4-year term.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's get on that discussion.
Okay, let's, yeah.
Please.
I
Okay.
think Sue had her hand up.
Yeah.
Sue,
Now we're on that.
Go ahead, it's again,
Sue Martin,
We miss you again, sorry.
I
thoughts?
I definitely agree, based on all of the certification and all that, and, you know, the becoming subject matter experts and all of that. It's 2 years does not seem reasonable. The problem that I have with it is that if you have someone, and I'm going to an individual who is not competent, then what do? Because you can't get rid of someone who is not competent. And how is that handled? Now, we're gonna also talk about the city clerk and the town clerk and becoming a not elected position. And I wanna get back to the discussion, I kind of teed it up on Saturday, but I wanted to hear for sure that the registrar of voters has to be an elected position. I know one has to be Democrat, one has to be a Republican. For sure, I know that. But does that mean they have to be elected as such?
Let's dig for the
Question. Through the chair, as we were researching this on the train with some of the council members, so they do have to be elected. A slight amendment on what you said, one doesn't necessarily have to be a Democrat or Republican, it's the highest and second highest vote getter. Now, it turns out it's usually Democrat, Republican. A couple of years ago, we had an independent that kind of made a good run for it.
But
Some-
two separate parties, the higher vote.
Two separate, exactly,
Okay, got it.
yeah. And they are always elected.
A lot of
By
things-
state statute or by
That's
city
what I was
charter?
that's what I was just gonna say. A lot of the things in regards to register of voters is regulated by state statute. Now, I think it was brought to our attention too, that, well, if the registrar does not complete their term, it's in our charter, I think by state statute, that the assistant registrar takes the term and finishes it. And some people brought up the point, well, it should be elected. By state statute, and I checked with Linda Grace, by state statute, the registrar, the assistant registrar takes over and finishes that term. It's not an issue of us bringing it to an election. but a lot of what has to do with just registrar voters. And I think only thing that we have the authority to do is to determine whether or not we want it to be a 2-year term or a 4-year term, so on and so forth. I think everything else is covered by state statute. Am I correct, attorneys?
We're digging.
And I think that that's where my issue lies, that I would hate to go to a 4-year term and have someone incompetent in there for 4 years.
But it takes 2 years to be certified.
Absolutely.
No,
So
it doesn't.
in my heart of
Up
hearts-
to,
Right, it doesn't take 2 years, they have up to 2 years
Right,
to
to do
complete
it.
their certifications.
But they do have extensive work that they have to do to get it, along with working
Yes,
full-time.
yeah, they got
So
it.
in my heart of hearts, I think that the 4-year term is the right thing. The one thing that's digging at me is, what if you're in a situation where that person is not competent?
Well, I will say, on that point,
Yeah, they have to be elected.
two things. One is, this is an area that's heavily regulated by the Secretary of State. So to the extent that there are any issues, they're probably going to come down very hard and intervene immediately, because elections are very prescribed processes. There's really not a lot of wiggle room, right? So if someone botches it, or we have issues, you see recent issues in Bridgeport, they're coming, and they're going to investigate. The other thing too is, I think there's some logic to there being 2 registrars. I think that's why there is a Democrat and a Republican, because there's more than one person that's administering at least the general elections. I mean, when it comes to parties, I think each registrar kind of handles their own party thing. But at least in our office, Pat and Linda are working hand in hand, right? They're like hand in glove on everything they do. So I think the fact that you have more than one, and you have deputies, and you have the Secretary of State that basically tell them what to do and are the boss, kind of protects against what you're talking about, which is a knucklehead getting elected and then,
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, can I ask commissioners, just to say, raise a hand, yes, on the 4-year term, not the decision,
For the registrar.
but just for the registrars only, 4-year term. Do you agree with that?
Well, we might
Well,
want
that-
to table
that-
this one,
Okay.
because we just came across a statute that said that there is a 2-year term for registrars of voters, so we want to make sure.
except that there's a statute that says that by charter you can do it for 4. It's, I handed out at the last meeting. So 9189A, it says notwithstanding the provisions of 9189, 9190A,
Yep, yep.
any town by charter or ordinance,
Okay.
and it lists positions that you can make a 4-year term. But we just have to designate it. If we don't designate it, it's automatic too. And that was my confusion, because the registrars were like, hey, you want to be a 4-year term? And I'm like, well, that's funny, let's find it. And it's not mentioned anywhere in the charter, but by operation of statute, it's 2 years unless we designate it.
This
Yes.
Oh, look at you!
I
Look,
told you.
everybody!
I told you he's been running around these halls since he was 2.
Perfect, thank you! And we've got the seal. This is so nice.
He's been running around here since he was 2.
Thank you, this is, wait, is it?
Tell your father I appreciate it.
It's double-sided.
So you can
Just in case you.
orient yourself. Oh, right.
Like, who am I?
Where am I?
Okay, so with that,
I think does it have to be paid? Can we have my own ones?
I think Maria.
Next time, go to state.
where's my plaque?
I know.
Good job, thank you.
She will be very upset about that.
Okay, so the state statute that you found said that we could do 4 years.
Right.
Okay. So that's something that we can add to or change in the document and
By the way,
vote on it eventually.
More than half the towns in Connecticut have done it, so they're all in big trouble.
Okay, so that's
But
that's our
our
rationale. More
our-
than half the towns have done it.
So our consensus is yes, a 4-year term for,
Yeah. And where
Should we
we
wait for
just
Diane?
talk about where you're at.
yeah, where it
Well, we're
go?
not really,
You think he's eating?
we're not.
Is he raising his hand?
I took him to a microphone.
He just went to the microwave. He's
Still-
coming right back.
we still have
He
seven.
raised his hand, didn't he?
I think he did.
He did, because
We
Yeah, I thought he was going to.
So,
raise his hands.
language for rationale,
Yeah.
many other towns do it, but also I think the critical piece here is that they receive training, and then their term is over, which isn't really productive. Yes.
Aisha Abdullah. The thing about that is that they do receive training, and then, after 2 years, we bring in new people, they don't know what they're doing, to your point. They don't know what they're doing, because after 2 years, you're just getting settled with this, you know? So another 2 years, you kind of be an expert, and then you can run again, and we hope you're gonna come back, because that's an important position. And we want people that are educated and understand their function.
But when you do this, as they're doing a term of 4 years, is there going to be a cap on how many terms that person can do?
Oh, interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So you can say 4 years, and then you can say, okay, I'm gonna run again, I got another 4 years. And then, okay, I'm gonna run another again, 4 years. So they can be in conception of 5 years, and that's a 20-year term.
I'm not sure we
That's,
should do that.
You're talking about term limits?
I like
Yeah,
term
I don't
limits.
think term limits are constitutional in Connecticut.
So someone can just run, and then every 4 years, and they get the position every 4
Yeah, there's a
years.
mayor that's been a mayor
Can
for
we
50 years
can
in
we be the
Connecticut.
beacon of change?
Yeah, because we
It's not
elect
in.
them. They
I
don't
don't think
just
it's,
get the
I don't
position,
think it's
we elect them.
constitutional.
I said it.
It's not,
Can I just, through the chair?
Oh, wait, hold on.
Through the chair, I believe the way it goes for registrar voters is that they are nominated by the party, okay, and put through that way. As far as I can see, as long as they're getting along with the party process that exists, most of the time, like, they want to go for their 20 years.
Yeah.
That's how
what
it
I'm saying.
works. I believe correctly that no term limit, I don't think we have term limits on anyone in the city of Bridgeport. Why would we start at this time with the registrar voters?
Okay. Just,
It's point well taken,
Madam
but,
Chair, if I could, just to say the other side of what you're saying, why not have term limits? And I'm not suggesting we do, but I don't think that we should not have term limits because people want to get their 20 years in and get a pension or whatever the point is. That to me is not a good rationale for why we wouldn't
we're
have
saying
term
that's why it
limits.
exists.
I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, you know, do we have a mayor who is mayor for 40 years just because his or her political party runs the city? I mean, there's that whole, we could get into, you
That's a
know,
whole
really,
different
it's a
discussion.
very, it's the same discussion, but it's a very real situation in our city.
But does the charter have the power to impose term limits?
So,
That's a
Well,
we don't want to get
Why
stuck on
wouldn't it?
all of these questions because some of these things are going to need research. So why don't we just take this one back and provide you an answer at the next meeting? We'll look into term limit requirements. It doesn't look like it though, just based on behaviors, right? I mean, there are people who've been in their spaces for decades.
right.
But let's just make sure that it's something that we can't do.
Because my concern is, like they said, they only have to do the certification one time.
But she said there are other things they have to do.
No,
Yeah,
they
they
have
have
to
to
do
do
continuing
education,
you
it's
know,
continuing
with training.
educational
Yeah.
credits. The lawyers do it, everyone does that. I'm accountant, we do
We
it.
have 12, they only have 8.
Yeah. Excuse me, attorney.
One thing that's confusing is if you look at the charter as it exists now, section 10, where
Can
it
you give
talks
us a
about
page number,
registrars
please?
and voters.
Page number, page number?
Well, we all have different
It's
drafts.
section, chapter 2, section 10.
Page
So
4.
I think it's the only section that talks about registrars.
Page 4.
And the reason I'm confused is it doesn't say in there how long the current term is.
It doesn't.
Even though if you go to the town clerk and city clerk and the mayor and everybody
Yeah,
else,
it's
it says. So maybe they're elected for life.
Let's let them
So
know
you're
that.
saying that they're actually putting a limit on themselves when they really should just leave it?
Let's call Linda Grace and say, Linda,
I think, you know what I think it is? It says in the manner provided by law. And the old law was 2 years, but now because of the statute that Tom talked about, we have to specify a time. There was no need to do it previously because the statute dictated it.
But now the statute's not doing it.
So the statute gives you an option, so you pick 2 or 4. And that's where you put it, in that section, obviously. You mirror the language, like the language they have for in section 4. I'm sorry, not there. In section 1, where it says, at the municipal election, blah, blah, blah. But these are gonna run on the statewide election, or like, mixing that up with the city clerk in town? No. These
I
are,
thought the registrar of voters was state,
Governor,
state,
president.
yeah,
let's
they
see
run
what
with the
that
governor.
statute
They
says.
do.
That's what I think, you're right.
So just, I would like to be clear. Were the city and town clerk were saying 4 years, the registrar of voters were saying 4 years?
Well, city and town
City
clerk are already
already-
4 years.
Oh, sorry. Then, so
It would
then
just
the
be
other one was the,
registrar.
oh, and
Oh,
then
and
you brought up the
sheriffs.
sheriffs, that's what it was, okay.
Right, so we
Yeah.
Sheriffs want to be 4 years too.
Do we want to get into that conversation
Yes.
next?
Yes, we have to, that's next.
Okay, so in my little research that I've done, sheriffs are obsolete and they use state marshals. Like, so,
why do we still have them?
I'm not gonna give an opinion on that,
Right,
but there is an article that I did print. I can just give it to everyone about it. But yeah, they got rid of them a few years ago. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
Did they get
It was
rid of them?
controversial.
Did they get rid of them when, at the 2012 attempted version of this, and we just haven't?
or did they request it, you mean?
Oh, we
Like, put it-
haven't
They put it
Yeah.
in.
I'm
We
saying,
haven't
I
gotten-
guess I'm
we haven't
asking
got-
when
we
it
haven't gotten
happened,
rid of it.
because it seems like it's an arcade thing, and maybe it's
Just ask if
arcade.
they made It wasn't that long ago when it
2012 thing
was-
passed,
it
maybe it
was-
would have
Oh,
been, maybe they would have been knocked out already in 2012.
I don't know off the top of my head how we propose to deal with it in 2012. Everybody in 2012, to be honest with you, was focused on the Board of Education
yeah.
and how they were going to be comprised.
Well, just, Commissioner Gondak, how does the city of Bridgeport itself use the sheriffs?
That's a good.
Well, actually, I have to say, I'm going to defer to the city attorney, because you probably
They,
use them
they
the
serve
most.
papers, right?
What
So
thing?
they essentially, court documents.
Oh,
So
okay.
like if there's a summons and complaint that needs to get served, if there's an eviction execution that needs to be served, they serve documents. My only concern with it is that for many of the city sheriffs, this is their livelihood. So if you are going to get rid of it, I think you need to give them time to become part of the state marshal system so that they can transition their careers. But that's what many of the city sheriffs did when they eliminated it, they became state marshals. So they'll still have work, they just need to do something to make that
And
happen.
the state marshals also.
They're not
so-
elected.
But they serve papers too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but how do you become a state marshal?
I don't know what the process is.
But do the state marshals serve papers from the local probate court or just Superior Court and the state
I
civil
don't think
court?
there's limits on it. See, city sheriffs can only serve within the city limits, state marshals can serve anywhere.
The draft that did not go anywhere in 2012 proposed keeping the city sheriffs. It's on page 54 of that document.
Is there
And
any
it limits
rationale?
them, it says they'll have the same power as state marshals, but they're limited, as Taisha just said, it says within the limits of the city, the same power and authority, and to be liable for the same suits and penalties, blah, 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 as constables by the general statutes now have.
And they were abolished by vote on the ballot by referendum in 2000, so 25 years ago. I can't believe 2000 is 25 years ago.
So the short answer is, even though this was intended to be a general comprehensive rewrite of the charter, nobody at that point at least moved to get rid of the sheriffs.
Right, and part of the problem was that they were running into difficulties with local police about what their powers were, right? 'Cause you said you used the word constable.
Yeah,
Well, we're getting rid of someone's livelihood.
what they are
This is scary.
functionally is their process servers.
They have
as
another
Jim said.
option.
That's what their role is,
They can
to serve legal papers and get compensated on the basis of that. It's-
Is there, so
It's a job.
just thinking about what people have said, is it possible, I mean, would we put language in here then to say like court marshals will be phased out? I mean, I'm sorry, not court marshals. Sheriffs will be phased out and take on the role as.
I'm not
We
looking to tell
can't
you
give
what
them-
to do, but the
We
question
can't give
is,
it to them.
if something isn't broken, do we have the time to fix something that's not
No, we
broken?
don't.
What do we care if They continue to serve papers within the city, whether you call them a state marshal, a constable, or a sheriff. The only reason we're even talking about them is they want 4 years instead of 2 years.
Right, so let's talk about that
Well, I
then.
think
Yeah,
also,
I can talk
think-
about why I care. I mean, because the city's liable for their behavior.
that's what I was gonna say.
And based on some of the statements made and some of the things they think they are able to do, which I don't think they're able to do, I'm a little concerned about liability for their behavior. So if we're gonna keep them, we should at least at the minimum enforce the bond requirement.
Yes.
Because they said that they have insurance, but there's nothing to say that we've been identified or named as an additional insured party on their insurance policy. So I'm concerned about
Obviously,
liability.
you're 100% correct, that's why you're the boss. But secondly, that same issue should be looked at for any number of other positions where people have access to money, et cetera, in the city.
And we have to enforce
My
the
question,
laws, too.
and it's a legal question, you probably know the statistics on it. In your opinion, do you think that they have been more of a liability than our own police department?
Well, we're back to, do we want them
You
can go
to have a
back.
4-year
They're
term?
employees.
Yes.
That is not a question.
Yeah, well,
Sorry.
you know, let's, I'm
So,
curious what you
thank
said.
you.
Because it's a lot of-
So I just wanted to address, someone said, taking away somebody's livelihood is, we shouldn't be doing that in the charter. We have to get away from the person, and we have to get back to the position. And if the sheriff system is antiquated, then we should talk about maybe it not being a part of our world. If it's not antiquated and it's working fine, that's fine. But one thing I'm gonna say about the city sheriff is it is an elected position, correct?
Yes.
And there's a lot, I'm gonna go back to, I know it's not popular, but there's a lot of political pull, and people make tremendous livelihood serving these papers. And the same thing with the state marshal, it's at a different level, but they make tremendous livelihoods doing this. So politically, a lot of people wanna keep these sheriffs in place, and that is on the city payroll. I think when you use a state marshal, it's like contracting out, right? You pay them for each,
They're not on our payroll.
No, that's what I'm saying, they're not on the payroll.
City sheriffs aren't either.
So who are they paid by?
They're paid directly by the people for whom they were serving papers. So if you can call the city sheriff and say, I need you to serve an eviction on one of my tenants, you're gonna pay them directly. My issue is we don't have any supervision over these people. In a state system, in the state marshal system, there's a process and they have a boss, right? These are independent contractors for whom we are responsible for indemnification.
So, but does the city use them and pay them independently for certain
We
functions?
use them to serve our documents.
Sometimes we do, but that's
Yeah.
irrelevant to Taisha's concern.
Yeah, I
Because
hear
we
that.
would be at the exposure, whether they're serving city papers
Right.
or for a
Or
private
papers,
attorney.
Right.
She's right on that. I mean, I sort of glossed over that point.
I think it's
The
kind of
liability
reckless
is
that
there.
they don't even have any training that the city,
They have no supervision.
yeah, that's,
But there's also no, like, the person who spoke said that he went to Massachusetts to find out what he was supposed to do, because there's nothing in Bridgeport or the state.
of Connecticut.
Or the state of Connecticut that dictates
There's no
what,
training.
right,
there's
so
no training, yeah.
I could
You're
be
not
sure.
gonna go there.
All right, I have a question, and I'll provide my personal commentary on this. My question is, absent the 6 marshals that are elected on a bipartisan basis, right, because Republicans elect 6 as well. Actually, this time independents won, actually, there are no Republican sheriffs. They were ousted, 3 independents won. Absent them, would you feel that there's like a shortage or harder to find state marshals? There are only so many of them. Like how much of a loss would it be to us as a major entity that uses sheriffs for serving papers?
I'm not sure that it would be tremendous. There's a list of state marshals on the judicial branch website, and it's extensive. And there are quite a few in our area, and there's some that are connected to us because I think they actually work here. We may have some state marshals. Like Heather Goulet is a state marshal. She's not a city sheriff, she serves papers. So
Yeah.
there's another option for the city sheriffs. I mean, that's my thought on this. It's not like they can't do something else. They can become state marshals and then have supervision and training and direction, and we won't have liability.
So my commentary on this then is that That's fine, that's a good, I am a little worried about the liability. I agree that they can become state marshals. This will be a common theme for me when we get to some of the council changes, in part because I think it will be necessary. Anything that affects someone who's currently occupying a seat, not because I'm trying to protect that particular individual, but I don't want anyone out in the world to think that we're targeting them in any way, or for our change to directly affect them. Make them effective for the elections starting in 2031, which is about 6 years away. It's not that long from now, if you want to phase this out. So I would say I'm open to the idea, as long as you don't do it now. I will also caution this body, this will be the first time that we bring up an issue where you might piss some people off. And all I'm saying is, you've got to get people to adopt this document.
Yeah.
So you just lost a few votes. And that's fine. But we just need to tally up where we're winning votes with people and where we're losing votes with people, because at the end of the day, if we propose a document that's going to fail, then we wasted our time. So I just caution you that this is one of those political things where some people may not like this proposal on a political basis, and therefore will organize people to vote no against it.
And it's
But
not
couldn't
that
we-
easy, it's not that easy to become state marshal. I can send this to all of you.
See,
Yes,
that's
we
what I
send
wanted
it.
to
When
know.
it says
That's-
qualify as a state marshal in Connecticut, there's a bunch of requirements, some of which you gotta be 21, you gotta be able to read English, you gotta have a high school equivalency, but then there's tougher ones. Be an elector in the county for which a vacancy for the position of state marshal exists. Pass an examination and all required training. Currently, the initial training consists of 1 week, 40 hours of classroom, followed by 80 hours of field training. And then you have to have adequate financial resources to attend 120 hours of unpaid training and pay for upfront business expenses such as the exam, medical costs, blah, 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 blah. So there's no assurance that our existing state sheriffs
through the chair,
will,
make-
any or all, end up as state marshals.
I think a bond would do.
Can I make a recommendation on this? That we enforce the fact that bonding has to be in place before they serve one piece of paper, all right? And that if there's any way that we can put in training for them, there's got to be some outreach we can do where they have to have some sort of training. And bonding is absolutely essential prior to their serving any type of papers. Is that idea?
So
Just a
you're saying that
recommendation.
you are recommending that if we move forward with a 4-year term?
Well, I don't know if I agree with the 4-year term either, but.
So you want that either
See,
or?
here's again, with this whole 4-year thing, is that people are going to get training, they're going to spend money.
Well, we got to guarantee that. Right now, they don't have that.
Yeah,
Right
but if
now,
you're gonna
we're
ask for a
telling-
bond, if you're gonna ask for a bond,
They're supposed to be.
They have to be
and
bonded.
I understand that, that's not, that, I'm putting that out there. If you're gonna ask for a bond, and then you're gonna ask them to go for training, what we're not understanding is training takes time.
Who's training?
Exactly.
Well, that, I guess that's.
We don't know if there's even training available
who's
for them,
training them?
considering
Yeah,
what they have shared with us. One of them had to go to another state to get
And so,
information.
and so with that being said, if we said that, the first thing everybody's gonna do is gonna run to that guy, where'd you go in Massachusetts to get your training?
That's dangerous.
So, can I ask a question on this? So, on the bond requirements, how much leeway do we really have? By the way, this is quite overblown, because I'm not aware of anybody, the city ever being sued over a
Oh,
sheriff thing
for
before.
sure,
This
right.
is a
I-
precaution which our attorneys rightfully are giving to us, but like, we ought not blow this out of proportion here. But I'm curious, to John's question about, well, let's just increase the bond that they have to get, so that we have some protection. What do you make of that?
I don't think we're collecting a bond at all, so in
Well, you
today's,
have to
and so
be
even
enforced.
if we don't do the bond situation, perhaps we should require that they have insurance and name us as an additional insured. I mean, we did receive a phone call recently in our office, someone complaining about a city sheriff, and they wanted to know who they should talk to. I don't know. I mean, we said this is not the appropriate place to send your complaints, but where is the appropriate place? So who's supervising these folks? And maybe no one is, because they're independent contractors.
Well, who supervises the town clerk? The answer is
The
nobody.
city of Bridgeport, they're the employees. So if they,
Can't
if they
terminate
buy,
them.
no, but we can discipline them.
Can we?
Can they not be suspended? Can they not be?
I can't suspend the town clerk. They're independently elected. What do you think, Mark? I don't think
Per
I can.
charter, we can, questionable constitutionally if we can. Per charter.
Then
certainly
listen,
can.
well, in that case, then I'm gonna discipline council members now, because they're independently elected too. I mean, what's the difference? They're independently elected positions. I don't have that authority.
But imagine
The mayor
if we
doesn't have that
could
authority.
discipline
Oh.
and punish.
And supervise?
Foucault.
Yeah.
If we could, maybe it wouldn't be raggedy as hell. I'm sorry.
And there were unicorns and ice cream didn't have as much sugar and all the things.
No, it doesn't have to be mythical. It doesn't.
So,
So as a legal matter though, because we don't have that authority from the state, we can only do what we have authority to do.
So can we table this discussion so we don't get stuck? I'm just so
I think so too. We're at
concerned about the
7:28.
fact that there's so many things to go through. And so maybe we leave the question out there. Let's decide what the question is and address it at a later date.
Can I propose a specific question then to John's point, if you want to amend bond to insurance? Is it legal for us to amend the charter to impose an insurance requirement? Is that does the city of Bridgeport have that authority to impose that requirement?
For our own protection.
That's the research question I have, in order to consider the
well,
question.
landscapers need to be insured. Why should?
Because the logic is that we only have the powers that have been delegated to us by the state legislature. So we may be imposing a qualification potentially
That's-
on that office that we don't have authority to
Okay.
impose.
Well,
So that's the legal question,
Okay.
can we or can we not? Because if we can require them to insure us for anything they do, then the liability question is kind of out the window.
Right.
You may not like the political process, how they get there, but, life moves on, they're serving papers, and really, as long as we deal with the
And then we
indemnity
can
question.
talk about the 4-year, 2-year.
Right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
What's the next thing?
Madam Chair?
I'm sorry.
Not to clarify, there are, just so people feel like we're not the only ones, there are a lot of cities in town that do still elect them. They're just called constables, they're not called sheriffs. We
Which
call them
was-
sheriffs here.
Right, and in this language, it says we're changing it to like constable, so.
So like Greenwich, Waterbury, Trumbull, Danbury, New Canaan, so there are still a lot of towns out there that do still do this.
In their cities, because you
In their
said
cities.
Waterbury, right?
Waterbury, Danbury.
The next issue, if you just want to keep going, is the assistant clerk.
Okay.
Well, we have two issues in the clerk's offices.
Okay, so we are at 7:30. We also still have to talk about meeting times and possibly talking about who are we inviting to some of these meetings.
Okay.
So,
So that means we're going to sponsor city clerk and is it deputy?
Who was that? That was kind of a quick one, right? That's a 2-year or
yeah,
4-year?
so we can go to that and then I
Do you want to
think,
hit this one and then
Yeah.
we'll move on to the schedule?
yeah.
So this one, there were two questions. One.
Tell me the number.
This is chapter 4. Chapter 4. Oh, there's multiple sections. So there's multiple references to assistant city clerk and assistant town clerk. They would like us to change those references to deputy. And then the other question was, and I think people pretty much weighed in on this one, the last one, do we want to phase out the elected positions in 2031 and make them civil servant, full-time positions and civil servants?
Because they also want an assistant.
Professionals.
They want a deputy and an assistant.
Which we wouldn't address here, that's a budget issue.
Right. But I think that it goes back to whether or not they're full-time positions or not.
Right.
If I could just ask a question on that point, why are we assuming we're doing the current part-time incumbents a favor by delaying it becoming a full-time position? They may run for the full-time elected position and double their pension if they serve.
And we're talking about making it a civil servant as opposed to elected official.
Oh, so you're going to
Yeah, we wanna take away
You're
the
going to have
election.
to compete for the job?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
And in a lot of towns, so we've heard from Steve Mendick and other places, is the modern approach to this is to have just a professional do it. There's a task that needs to be performed. You have someone that goes through a civil service process to get there. They're full-time. This is an antiquated approach of electing people in what used to be a part-time role for a little city on the hill. And then it became the biggest city in Connecticut. So, it is what it is, and it still functions. And as you can see, what is now the assistants, they want to be called deputies, are really running the day-to-day operations. Again, this is one of those points where I, as a commissioner, only will support these changes if they start in 2031, so that we aren't targeting people or kicking people out of their current office. But I do like that modern approach. That's my
Modern approach, but if you're saying, what I hear you saying, if the assistant is doing all the work, then why do we need?
The elected person.
I think the thought process is that the person who applies for the city clerk position as a civil servant would probably be the deputy who would qualify to be the city clerk as opposed to the deputy city clerk.
But that's not how they're proposing it.
No. So what would happen is, so let's say we make the change in the charter, and in 2031, as of that new term, no more election, just a civil servant appointed. It's likely that the person in the deputy position will apply for, and because they've been there, probably has a leg up on getting that position. Of course, other people will apply too. But they, like a Francis Ortiz.
That's why I'm saying
Will appear
it's like-
before us, or a Christina Resto. You didn't get to meet her. She's lovely, very competent in the town clerk's office. One day, I can see them being the town clerk's assistant, and they're no longer political people. They're just doing a job.
Like they've been to.
Right.
But through the chair, but right now, the city clerk and the town clerk are part-time positions. So if we're talking about that assistant or deputy, whatever it is, taking that city clerk or town clerk full position, then they're going to a part-time position as it stands right now. And we did talk about how the absence of the language, full-time versus part-time, was more a matter of budgetary issue, that we thought that for the charter to mandate one or the other didn't necessarily make sense. But so now it's kind of a logistic thing, like why would, the assistant or the deputy would not want to become the full-time or the part-time.
Well, it wouldn't be
boss.
part-time anymore. It would be a full-time position.
Because it'd be under civil service.
Because what would happen is essentially, well, again, you can't say the deputy's going to become the full-time because you don't know. Anyone in the world can apply for the position and potentially get it, but
Why not?
you would have a full-time town and city clerk, and you'd have a deputy, they'd be running the office. But now that person is vested with the power, because although the assistants are running the day-to-day in the office, they're not the ones with the statutory authority.
Right.
Our part-time elected officials are the ones that have control over the office. They're independently elected. They are the ones empowered to hire their staff in their offices and to direct that staff. And, under my view, I don't think they can be disciplined. I can't do something to Lydia Martinez, the city clerk, or Charlie Stallworth as the town clerk, because they're independently elected by the people, and they have powers given to them under state statute and the charter. And if they're not doing their job, it's like the registrar of voters. If she does something wrong, the Secretary of State can do something to her. I can't. She's not a regular civil servant employee.
So who supervises them?
The people.
The people.
Who supervises the mayor and the council? The people, through elections. That's how you supervise elected officials. So but that's kind of the point, is like, man, maybe these should not be elected officials.
Go ahead.
Okay.
So that means you can do whatever you want, no one's gonna call you on it.
Well, it's the same thing with the registrar of voters we just talked about. We said give them 4-year
Well-
terms or whatever.
But it's the state, right? You said that the state can regulate them. That's the argument that you made about why they should have 4-year terms. You remember that, right?
But this is what. Oops. She's funny.
I missed it.
No, but like,
You really missed it.
she said. No, but here's the thing.
Shots fired.
I'm just following you.
Don't be
Who
shilting
supervises the council person that misbehaves? The
Look,
answer is nobody.
I-
The people,
uh-huh.
for elections.
Yeah, that, nobody.
Council members do a naughty thing,
Oh,
the people
Lord,
can
never.
choose to elect them or not.
But
That's
then
how,
again- but
that's how
then- but then,
democracy
like
Well, you
with
can
city
still do
council,
anything if it's
sometimes, like well, my observation from the outside looking in, like they may vote on censoring another city council person for being on a committee. That's some form of punishment or, you know.
Yeah, you can't talk, you can't talk for 2
You can't
days.
take them out of
They can
office.
do that because they have council rules as a body.
Right.
For better or worse,
Right, right.
the town clerk and city clerk are one person, and they're not gonna discipline themselves.
Well, and here's my amendment to what I'm saying. I'm not saying that they can do whatever they want, because they only have powers that are given to them either by our charter or by state statute. If they do something illegal that's beyond their power, someone could take them to court and challenge them, right? People have sued over elections issues, for instance, which these office, well, the town clerk's office is involved in, saying that there was an error in a calculation or something they did wrong. So there are court remedies to times that they mess up. I'm not saying it's completely lawless, that's not the case. So I just want to be clear.
Okay.
So, if I hear you correctly, so I'm just trying to rationalize this. So from the 2 elected positions, which technically we would have the town clerk and the city clerk, and then you have the assistant, whatever those
each
2.
build them.
So that's 4 positions. If we propose to go to the civil
Service.
servant, that eliminates the 2, and we just have 2.
It would eliminate them as elected part-time positions. It would make them full-time,
Oh.
but professional positions.
So we
But don't
just-
worry about the budget implications of that, because
But we
that's
would
a
still-
city council
Okay, so you're
issue.
still looking at a town clerk and whether it's gonna be a deputy or whomever. So you're still looking at that, you're not taking away anything.
Right.
Okay.
I'm taking away
Nothing.
the elected position.
Yeah, yeah, I would take
No,
that.
But not
just the
until
title.
2031, he
But if
suggested.
the council
I thought
may
maybe if we
decide.
took away those completely and then have those move up, then I would be agreeable.
The city council might decide at that time, if this were all that happened,
That's kind of what's gonna happen, right?
No.
that if the part-time city clerk becomes a full-time city clerk and the part-time town clerk becomes a full-time town clerk,
Right.
that someone down the totem pole, we can eliminate a position and find some savings. The budget is not an issue for this body. It's just a question of concept. Elected, not elected. That's what we have to decide.
Well, it's elected, you would just, in 2020, 2031, we would not have an elected city clerk on the ballot, we would not have a town clerk on the ballot. What would happen is that through the civil service process, we would hire a city clerk under civil service, and we would hire a town clerk under civil service.
In the same manner we hired the assistant today, the full-time people that really are doing the day-to-day.
Right, right.
So that part-time person that, out of this room, doesn't do too much, okay? That gets $36,000 a year in
The
benefits.
elected person?
The elected
Try
person,
40.
the elected person, all right? It's just an old-fashioned thing that needs to be changed, not the person, the position.
No, I understand. I understand. And that's where the money, that was my concern, is because we have that $50,000 that we're paying someone to do nothing. And we want to continue, and now we want to make it a full-time. Now, just hear me, if it's part-time and they're getting 40 to 50, how much you think they're gonna want when it's full-time?
But will we
But that's
have
not
that
our
other,
issue.
will it be
That's a
2 or
budget.
1?
That's a budget issue.
That's a budget
That's
issue,
a
that's not our
budget
issue,
issue.
we don't need it in
Right, it's our issue because we're putting it in here.
No, but not the money.
No, we're
It
taking,
becomes us because we're voting on it to include it as a full-time
I
position.
mean, no, but it's,
but we're getting rid of a part-time
but we're
position.
getting rid of the part-time.
We're getting
We're getting rid of the
we're
elected position.
position.
So right now, there are 2 part-time people, the assistant and the elected person.
And that's what I
Want to get
asked.
rid of the, or I shouldn't
I
say
asked that
You
question
know what I
and you
mean?
all said no. We
No,
were
no,
keeping.
I didn't say
That's
anything.
what I said to you, that's what I was trying to
That, I
say.
asked that question. We have the 2 part-time elected officials, and then we have the 2 assistants
That are full-time.
that are full-time. And I asked that question, and they said, no, those 2 positions will become full-time, and then we still have full-time.
No.
That's why I was saying, no.
No.
It's that the elected positions gone.
Well, that's not what was said.
No, okay. Just to clarify one last time, I think actually the answer to your question is actually yes. You're asking if you transition the town clerk and the city clerk from a part-time elected official to a full-time appointed official, will you still have an assistant, which we might call a deputy? Yes.
Thank you.
That might happen. But that, again, all we're doing in here is it says, how do we get, we have an assistant, we have a town clerk, we have a city clerk, this is what they do, and they can appoint a deputy. That's all that we're empowering them in the charter. How many positions they have,
That's on them.
So then we're not taking.
all this stuff, we're not deciding that, that's a budget issue.
That's not.
Okay.
All right.
Wonderful discussions. Thank you, everyone.
I think we need a time limit on these discussions.
We do need to talk about dates.
It's not 8 o'clock.
You can't leave until 8.
Where did that document? Oh, you cannot leave.
Lock the doors.
Okay, Tom is passing around a list of dates, tentative dates for our schedule.
So here was the attempt at trying to schedule 13 people.
City clerk, you can hire.
So you can ignore the document that I sent. Thank you for those that filled it out, Terry and John Larkovitz.
So here's an attempt to try to.
But he did, Tom did use this to get at least,
To fit it
the
in.
chair availability, and also he looked at
Okay.
holidays, budget, council. He looked at many things to help us come up with this.
There were about
schedule.
15 schedules that went into making this schedule.
Yeah.
And the whole point was to spread out the days so that everyone's probably going to miss something. Even the chair is going to miss a meeting. I'm going to miss it. Like, everyone's going to miss something. But the attempt was to try to break it up so that no one was being left out more than, 1 or 2 times, hopefully. And if we tried to establish this in advance, we could try to do it. But it's avoiding the major holidays, Memorial Day, Good Friday, these days off. The budget meetings that are also being filmed, city council meetings, things like that. Like big things that we can't bump up against. And I just looked at the chair, because I had a proposal before this, and I amended it so that the chair could be here for just about everything. So I urge that unless somebody finds a landmine, that we just try to go with it. We can add stuff and change it as we go. And this doesn't even bring up the topics we're going to discuss necessarily.
Oh, so these are all
Yeah,
our dates.
but at least if we can just agree on the dates and where we're gonna be, and maybe the public hearings in our next meeting a little bit.
Yeah, just.
How would we
I
help?
agree in all of it, I have to go.
Didn't I tell you it's not 8 o'clock?
Do I have to do something?
I'm sorry. I just won't be there on May 17th, so you all pray for me. I'll be graduating.
That's awesome.
So we need to make a motion to adopt these dates?
You're in great hands with Mark. Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice massage.
Okay.
So I think what we could do is, the chair of the meeting
Follow her up.
can decide.
I love you guys.
We love
I mean,
you.
if everyone's pretty good with following the schedule, we'll just give it to the clerk, they can issue the meetings, and then the topics will be decided by the chair. So we don't necessarily, so I think this is like what they call a gentleman's agreement kind of
Yeah,
thing.
so all these dates that are open are our dates, correct?
Just
All
take-
these dates that are here.
I would suggest you take a vote to authorize the chair in consultation with the CAO to determine the topics to be discussed. Plug them in and you can vote on the final thing at the next meeting.
Would everyone like
Or
to
do you
make a
want to, or
motion?
Tom, are you suggesting you decide the topics as we roll along?
Well, I think we need to give the chair discretion to set the agenda,
Yeah.
because if we try to prescribe right now what we're gonna do on every day, one, we're gonna be here all night, and two, how in the world? It's just not gonna happen,
Somebody want to make a motion to empower the chair to establish the agendas? It generally is.
For the next
empowered-
meeting, you're saying?
No, for all of them, as you
all of
go.
them.
Yeah. That's generally the rule. In any board or commission, that's the
Yeah.
general rule, that the chair establishes the agenda.
Right.
Kim Eaton's beginning to make a
You
motion
could-
for the
you could-
chair to set the agenda.
Thank
I
you.
second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Wait a minute, I just, who,
She made a motion that the chair
now,
sets
I
the
definitely
agenda.
didn't hear a word come out of your mouth.
She did.
I did not hear, because Mark was talking and I did not hear you. And then I heard the second and I'm like, who did the first?
That's why I was
Kim
talking over you.
Kim Eaton.
I made a motion
Kim Eaton motion.
move the,
To allow the chair.
to allow the chair to set the agenda.
Yep, and I
Thank
second it.
you.
And I second it.
And then we all raise our hand.
And is anyone in favor of this?
To secretary.
Hey, this is a great job. I just want to say thank you.
I had about, I had calendars spread out across my table in my office trying to figure this out.
No, this is good. This is
And then I
good.
came in and Faith said, I can't make most of these, so I had to redo it on the spot, but we did.
Well, that's
okay.
good,
I
though.
think we're good. Okay.
You did a good job.
Yes, this is great. Thank you,
It is
Tom.
great.
Now,
Um,
Tom, one thing I'd like to discuss ultimately is, in regards to the civil service presentation, as important that is going to be to this commission.
that's right.
I'd like to see if it's possible to move it up from the end of this. As you have it at the end of May, on May 31st,
What?
which just before we're
Yeah.
going to be making our final decision.
So here was the logic. The logic is that these are the most complicated changes of the entire document that need to be figured out by a bunch of lawyers and civil service people, and we're already rushing them. And the logic was, I was thinking, land this conversation on a Saturday when they can come, we'll make them, you know, they're all city officials, but make them come and present for as long as we need them and answer our questions. And then we come back and we discuss and kind of vote to adopt what they've got.
Is it?
But
and is
really,
that
it's gonna be really hard to move that up because they're just not gonna be ready. I'm just being honest.
May 17th?
I mean,
That's another Saturday.
look, the deadline is the deadline, so if we wanna move it up, I can ask them, like, if we're ready, we empowered the chair to do the agenda, so if they're ready sooner, we can do the Saturday, May 17th, and then discuss on the 20th. Great. I just can't commit on their behalf.
It's just that, as
We'll
important
have
as
the-
it is to this charter, I'd like more time, I'm thinking more, even if it's 5 days more,
Yeah.
to give us more discussion time
Yeah.
on it.
So are you talking after then? Oh,
No,
you want them to
before.
present
Move it
before?
up, move it up. If we can move it up a
I
couple
mean,
days.
John, not
try.
that we have a shortage of sexy topics.
No, like, yeah, part of me also would like to see, and this is my own personal opinion, the legislative ideas that we come up with, one of the last discussions we have, because we don't want it to have any bearing on what we decide here.
Can I just ask for clarification? I'm so sorry. I missed why the civil service, what they're not ready for. What was their scheduling?
They're doing a whole rewrite of Chapter 17, which is not an easy
Of
task.
the charter?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
that's
it's
fine.
just
Got it.
we're
Totally
going to
get it.
confuse the hell out of everybody when they come.
And
It's
there's
going to be a
too
tough
many- there's
session.
too many cooks. You've got the city attorney's office, CAO, labor relations, benefits, civil service, and some outside attorneys who work with the Board of Ed. When we have one topic to kick around, and we're in a room, it takes 4 hours. We have 8 different opinions, so.
There's only 6 people.
Yeah, well, you've been there for so long, you've witnessed them.
Okay.
And I just think, I don't think there's a shortage of hot topics. I mean, we couldn't, even some of the small ones today that I thought were small ended up being big and we
Right.
couldn't get through them. So I think we're going to be plenty busy.
And I just want to be clear, I'm not criticizing anyone, because these are very unclear, complicated issues that you can have a variety of opinions, any one of which might be the right one. We'd like to get as close as we can to the right one.
Well, my only other, I'm sorry to keep yakking, but my only other thought was, and this is based on feedback from the commission, is people really felt that public input was important. And if we're agreeing, I just put 2 public hearings kind of in here as placeholders. If we're agreeing that those are the public hearing days, we should put those out. If that's really our interest, is like letting everybody know in advance, then we should just tell people.
A question on that, and I think public hearing's great, but I also was thinking about moving it outside the city hall to a different venue versus like Hall Neighborhood House. Park, going into the neighborhood, going into Black Rock, the Girls
Borough Center.
Library.
Borough
Just to move it out of City Hall. If we can, if the logistics are possible, that we are actually reaching out into the city.
To the-
But then that
That's
causes
been
a
your
problem
here.
with space. And if we have these dates, so that would be a problem with space. Because I know if you're talking about the Borough Center, they already have their set agenda of
It's done
times
as long
and
as-
things like that. And so that's the only issue is if we're looking at April 9th, we have to go to
We
those
can reach
locations and
out.
say what's available.
Can we try that? You know, that's just the sense that we're showing that we're reaching out to the
Well,
community.
John, maybe let's try to see if, let's just start with the 9th and see if we can find a spot somewhere.
Yeah.
On April
Yeah,
9th, yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, there's the North End Branch Library, there's different libraries.
Oh, yeah, I
there's
like the
different
North End.
venues
That's
that
a
we
nice
can
branch.
Reach out to.
Yeah, that's a
That's-
nice branch, and they have parking at that branch.
It'd be
Yeah,
helpful
that's
if we did locations that are, you know, probably libraries, places the city controls, so we can make sure that it works for us, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, that's great. It gives us, we have, what, 2 weeks to try to come up with a venue?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty
Thank-
much.
Thank you very much.
Any other items for discussion?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Me.
So noticed.